Dr. Sarah Chin stood at the viewport of Research Station Omega, her breath fogging the reinforced glass as she stared at the swirling storms of Nebula 6. The massive gas giant below cast everything in a perpetual purple twilight, creating the perfect camouflage for what she'd just discovered on one of its habitable moons. "You're absolutely certain about this?" Station Director Vazix clicked his mandibles nervously, all four of his eyes fixed on the holographic data floating between them. The Arthenian's exoskeleton shimmered with anxiety patterns. "Completely," Sarah replied, manipulating the 3D image to zoom in on the nest site. "The last breeding pair of voidwalkers in the known galaxy. And they're dying." The creatures in the hologram seemed to defy reality itself, massive predators that looked like a cross between ancient Earth dragons and deep space leviathans. Their scales absorbed light rather than reflected it, making them appear as moving tears in the fabric of space. They were magnificent, terrifying, and on the brink of extinction. "The atmospheric toxicity levels are rising faster than predicted," Sarah continued, pulling up environmental data. "Without intervention, they'll be dead within a standard month. Their eggs won't survive the contamination." "Then nature must take its course," Vazix said solemnly. "The Galactic Council's stance on voidwalkers is clear. They're too dangerous to preserve. Many would consider their extinction a blessing." Sarah's jaw tightened. "They think that because they don't understand them. No one's ever tried to actually study voidwalkers up close. They just saw apex predators that could tear through starship hulls and decided they were better off extinct. Because anyone who got close enough to study them became lunch," Vazix countered. "I know that look in your eyes, Dr. Chen. Whatever you're thinking, stop thinking it." But Sarah was already pulling up her research notes. "Their hunting patterns, their nesting behavior, they're not mindless killers. They're intelligent, social creatures. The parents take turns guarding the nest while the other hunts. They sing to their eggs. They grieve their dead. Dr. Chin, I can save them." Sarah turned to face the station director. "I need a containment vessel, atmospheric stabilizers, and 48 hours. "Absolutely not. I cannot authorize a rescue mission for creatures that the Council has classified as Category 1 Death World predators. It's suicide." Sarah smiled, the kind of smile that had preceded many of humanity's greatest breakthroughs and worst ideas. "Good thing I'm not asking for authorization then. I'm giving you plausible deniability. In 48 hours, I'm taking my personal shuttle down there. You can either help me prepare, or you can watch me try it without preparation." Vazix's exoskeleton flashed patterns of exasperation. "The human tendency to befriend deadly creatures is going to be the death of your species." "Actually," Sarah said, already heading for the door, "I think it might be our greatest strength. Besides, someone has to be first to prove they can be saved. Why not us?" The next 48 hours were a blur of preparation. Sarah studied every scrap of data about voidwalkers, most of it written by researchers who'd only observed them from orbit. She modified her shuttle's cargo hold into a makeshift habitat, installing the atmospheric regulators she'd borrowed from the station's supply depot. As she made her final checks, Vazix appeared in the shuttle bay. "The Council will have my carapace for this," he chittered, extending a data crystal. "But I've calculated the optimal approach vector to avoid the worst of the storms. Try not to die. The paperwork would be astronomical." Sarah took the crystal, touched by the gesture. "I'll be careful." "And Vazix?" "Thank you." The descent through Nebula SX's atmosphere was like flying through purple soup. Sarah's shuttle bucked and shuddered, but the coordinates Vazix provided proved true. Soon she was setting down a safe distance from the voidwalker nest. The scene that greeted her through her shuttle's viewports made her heart ache. The massive creatures were clearly struggling to breathe in the deteriorating atmosphere. The eggs in their nest pulsed weakly with internal bioluminescence, a sign they were still alive, but failing. Sarah sealed her envirosuit and cycled the airlock. The first step onto the moon's surface felt momentous, though she knew it was more likely to be her last step if she was wrong about these creatures. She carried no weapons, they'd be useless anyway against voidwalkers. Instead, she clutched a device of her own design, hoping her theory about their songs was correct. The parent voidwalkers noticed her immediately. Their massive heads turned, eyes like black holes fixing on her tiny form. The larger one, probably the female, Sarah guessed, rose to her full height, bigger than Sarah's shuttle. This was the moment. Either Sarah was about to revolutionize xenobiology's understanding of apex predators, or she was about to become a very brief cautionary tale. She activated her device. From its speakers came the complex harmonies she'd recorded from the nest, digitally reproduced and modified to match the patterns she'd analyzed. A lullaby, she believed, sung by void walkers to their young. The females stopped her advance. Both creatures tilted their heads, listening. Sarah held her breath. Then, impossibly, beautifully, they began to sing back. 2 days later, when Sarah's shuttle returned to Research Station Omega, it carried precious cargo: 2 adult void walkers, sedated but stable, and a clutch of eggs in a perfectly regulated atmospheric chamber. But more valuable than even these rare creatures was the data she'd collected, proof that even the galaxy's most dangerous predators could form bonds of trust if someone was willing to try understanding them first. Vasix was waiting in the shuttle bay, his exoskeleton displaying a complex mix of relief, disbelief, and resignation. The Council is going to need a very good explanation for this. Sarah grinned as she stepped out of her shuttle. Oh, I'll give them one. But first, help me set up the nursery. These eggs are going to hatch soon, and I have a feeling we're about to learn more about void walkers than anyone in history. Humans, Vasix chittered, even as he moved to help. You really will try to pet anything, won't you? Not pet, Sarah corrected, watching the eggs pulse with a stronger glow. Understand. There's a difference. Though I won't deny the petting might come later. She smiled as the eggs pulsed again, knowing this was just the beginning. Soon, the galaxy would have to accept that humanity's crazy approach to dangerous creatures might just be the key to preserving some of its most magnificent species. And maybe, just maybe, that understanding would lead to something even greater. The Voidwalker eggs hummed their ancient songs, and Sarah hummed back, ready to help bring these amazing creatures back from the brink of extinction, one scientific breakthrough, and one gentle touch at a time. This is absolute madness. The Galactic Council representative, Ambassador Xoth, slammed his tentacle on the conference table. His chromatophores flashed angry patterns of red and orange across his cephalopod-like features. First the Voidwalkers, and now you want to establish an entire sanctuary for dangerous predator species? 6 months had passed since Dr. Sarah Chen's successful rescue mission, and the subsequent birth of 3 healthy Voidwalker hatchlings had sent shockwaves through the scientific community. Now she stood before the Council's Special Committee on Xenological Conservation, fighting for something even bigger. Commander Marcus Rodriguez, the newly appointed director of Earth's Interstellar Wildlife Division, stepped forward. The success with the Voidwalkers isn't an isolated incident. Humanity has a long history of working with predator species. He gestured to the holographic display showing Earth's historical records. Tigers, wolves, bears, species that were once considered pure threats became vital parts of their ecosystems once we understood them. Some even became companions. Those were your world's predators, another council member, a crystalline Triforian, chimed in. You evolved alongside them. But species like the plasma wraiths of Sector 7? The shadow stalkers of the void reaches? They're beyond comprehension, beyond control. Sarah activated her own presentation. Actually, we've been studying the behavioral patterns of several supposedly incomprehensible species. There are remarkable similarities to Earth's apex predators. They're intelligent, social, and, most importantly, they can form bonds of trust. The room erupted in skeptical murmurs. Sarah continued, undaunted. The proposed sanctuary on Europa Prime isn't just about preservation. It's about understanding. Every species we lose diminishes our galaxy's biodiversity. And every species we fear unnecessarily limits our ability to explore and expand. Commander Rodriguez nodded. We've already secured funding and begun construction. The facility will feature specialized habitats, state-of-the-art containment systems, and a dedicated team of Earth's most experienced xenobiologists and animal behaviorists. And when these creatures inevitably break free and slaughter your staff? Xoth demanded. If, Sarah corrected, Anything goes wrong, we have multiple redundant safety systems. But more importantly, we have something no other facility has ever tried, a commitment to treating these beings as intelligent creatures worthy of respect, not monsters to be feared. The debate raged for hours. Sarah and Rodriguez presented study after study, including the remarkable progress of the Voidwalker hatchlings, which had already formed strong bonds with their human caretakers. Finally, Council Elder Virex, who had remained silent throughout, raised a gnarled appendage. The humans speak wisdom, the ancient beings' thoughts resonated directly in their minds. Fear has guided our policies for too long. I move to approve their sanctuary with conditions. They may proceed, but any incident resulting in death will lead to immediate shutdown. 2 months later, Sarah stood at the entrance of the newly completed Europa Prime Wildlife Sanctuary. The massive facility stretched across the terraformed moon's surface, a testament to human engineering and determination. Each habitat was a carefully crafted ecosystem, designed to meet the specific needs of its inhabitants. The first transports arrive tomorrow, Rodriguez said, joining her at the viewport. 3 plasma wraiths, a mated pair of shadow stalkers, and... He smiled, a surprise. Sarah raised an eyebrow. What kind of surprise? Remember those stories about the cosmic leviathans in the Maelstrom Nebula? Turns out they're not extinct after all. One of our deep space expeditions found a juvenile, wounded by illegal stellar miners. Sarah's eyes widened. But they're planet-sized? Rodriguez grinned. Almost. This one's still young, only about the size of a small moon. But it needs help, and more importantly, it needs to be studied and protected. The miners nearly killed it trying to harvest its energy. Sarah shook her head, smiling. The council's going to have a fit. Probably. But they approved the sanctuary. As long as we maintain our perfect safety record, they can't stop us from expanding our research. As if on cue, a soft melody echoed through the facility's communication system, the song of the Voidwalker hatchlings, now nearly fully grown, calling to their caretakers. Sarah had discovered that each species had its own way of communicating, its own capacity for connection. The key was being willing to listen, to learn, and most importantly, to trust. We're really doing this, Sarah said softly. Creating a safe haven for the species everyone else gave up on. Rodriguez nodded. That's what humans do best, isn't it? We see beauty where others see monsters. We find ways to bridge gaps everyone else thinks are impossible to cross. As they walked back into the facility, Sarah's mind was already racing with possibilities. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new creatures to understand, new boundaries to push. But for now, she listened to the Voidwalker's song echoing through the halls, a reminder that sometimes the most dangerous leap of faith could lead to the most remarkable discoveries. The sanctuary was just the beginning. Soon, the galaxy would learn that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in fearing the unknown, but in embracing it, understanding it, and proving that even the most terrifying creatures in existence could become allies rather than enemies. The warning sirens pierced the artificial night of Europa Prime Sanctuary, their wail echoing through the massive facility. Dr. Maya Patel jerked awake at her monitoring station, displays flashing red across her console. Status report. Commander Rodriguez's voice crackled through the comm system. Primary power grid failure, Maya responded, her fingers flying across the holographic controls. Backup systems are not responding. Something's corrupted the main computer core. She didn't need to explain what that meant. Without power, the atmospheric containment fields would fail. The carefully maintained habitats would begin breaking down. And the sanctuary's residents, some of the most dangerous creatures in known space, would be free to roam. All personnel, initiate Emergency Protocol Omega, Rodriguez ordered. Evacuate to the secure bunkers immediately. Maya hesitated, her eyes fixed on another display. In the Voidwalker enclosure, one of the hatchlings, now nearly grown, was showing signs of distress. The atmospheric changes were already affecting them. Dr. Patel, Rodriguez's voice hardened. That was an order. Sir, Maya replied, making a decision that would either revolutionize xenobiology or end very badly. I'm going to the Voidwalker enclosure. They trust me. I can keep them calm until we restore power. Negative. It's too dangerous. The containment fields are at 15% and falling. But Maya was already moving, grabbing her portable atmospheric stabilizer. With all due respect, sir, this is exactly what the sanctuary was built for. To prove these creatures aren't just mindless monsters. Trust goes both ways. As she sprinted through the darkening corridors, emergency lights casting everything in a red glow, Maya's mind raced. The sanctuary currently housed 27 of the galaxy's most lethal predator species. If they all got loose at once. A shadow passed overhead. One of the plasma wraiths had already escaped its enclosure. The ethereal creature, composed of living energy, drifted through the ceiling like a ghost. Maya held her breath, but it seemed more interested in freedom than hunting. She reached the Void Walker enclosure just as the containment field flickered out completely. The 3 juvenile Void Walkers, each now the size of a small shuttle, turned their space-dark eyes toward her. Their scales rippled with distress patterns she'd learned to read over months of study. "Hey there, beautiful ones," Maya said softly, activating her portable stabilizer. A bubble of breathable atmosphere surrounded her. "Remember me? Let's get through this together." The largest of the 3, whom she'd named Nova, lowered its massive head to her level. Maya reached out, placing her hand on the light-absorbing scales. The connection they'd built, the trust earned through countless hours of care and study, held firm. "That's it," she soothed. "Now, how about we help your siblings stay calm too?" Through her earpiece, she could hear chaos unfolding throughout the sanctuary. The Shadow Stalkers had phased through their walls. The cosmic Leviathan juvenile was stirring in its space dock habitat. But here, in this moment, 3 of the galaxy's most feared predators were choosing to trust a human rather than flee. "Dr. Patel," Rodriguez's voice came through again, "we've got bigger problems. Long-range sensors just picked up an incoming ship. Energy signature matches known poacher vessels." Maya's blood ran cold. Of course, the power failure wasn't an accident. With the sanctuary's defenses down, all these rare creatures would be easy prey for illegal hunters. "Sir," she said, "an idea forming. What if we turn this crisis into an opportunity?" "I'm listening." "The poachers are expecting to find chaos and terrified staff. Instead, let's show them why humans were crazy enough to build the sanctuary in the first place." She looked up at Nova, seeing not a monster, but an ally. "These creatures trust us. Maybe it's time to trust them back." There was a long pause. "Then, what did you have in mind?" Maya smiled, reaching up to scratch Nova's sweet spot, a patch of scales just behind its sensory nodes. The massive predator rumbled with pleasure. "The poachers want to see what Earth's most dangerous wildlife sanctuary looks like when everything goes wrong. Let's give them a demonstration they'll never forget. But first, I need to make a few friends." As if understanding her words, Nova lowered its head further, offering her a perch on its neck. Maya climbed aboard, her heart racing with equal parts fear and exhilaration. Through her earpiece, she could hear Rodriguez coordinating with other staff members who, like her, had chosen to stay with their charges rather than evacuate. "Sir," she said, settling between Nova's shoulder ridges, "remember how everyone said we were crazy for trying to bond with these creatures? I think it's time to prove just how sane we were." The sanctuary's emergency lights cast strange shadows as Maya and Nova moved through the corridors, gathering allies for the battle to come. Behind them, 2 more Void Walkers followed, their movements perfectly in sync with their sibling. Above, plasma wraiths danced like auroras, responding to the hand signals Maya had spent months teaching them. And somewhere out in space, poachers were approaching, unaware that they were about to learn a vital lesson. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't in caging dangerous creatures, but in earning their trust. The galaxy was about to witness firsthand why underestimating either humans or their predator allies was a very, very bad idea. The poacher's ship breached the sanctuary's upper atmosphere, a dark silhouette against Europa's starlit sky. Inside the facility's dimmed corridors, Maya Patel sat astride Nova, the Void Walker moving silently despite its massive size. Through her neural link, she could sense the other sanctuary staff in position. 5 minutes to landing, Rodriguez's voice crackled through the calm. Maya, are you sure about this? Maya watched as a plasma wraith drifted past, its ethereal form pulsing with anticipation. Trust goes both ways, Commander. We're ready. The poacher vessel landed in the sanctuary's main cargo bay, its engines powering down with a predatory hum. Maya could hear the metallic clang of the airlock cycling through her earpiece. Scanners show 12 hostiles, Rodriguez reported. Heavy weapons, neural disruptors, they came prepared. So did we, Maya whispered, patting Nova's neck. The Voidwalker's scales rippled with understanding. The poachers moved through the facility with professional precision, their helmet lights cutting through the darkness. Maya watched through the security feeds as they split into 3 teams. Look at all these empty cages, one poacher laughed, his voice carrying through their comms. Bet those stupid humans are hiding in their bunkers while millions of credits worth of specimens run loose. If only they knew. Maya gave the signal. Throughout the facility, shadows began to move. The trap was sprung. The first team rounded a corner to find themselves face-to-face with the juvenile cosmic leviathan, its massive eye filling the entire corridor. Before they could raise their weapons, plasma wraiths descended from above, passing through their suits and temporarily disrupting their neural systems. The second team found themselves in the empty, shadow stalker habitat. They never saw the predators phase through the walls behind them, never had a chance to fire a shot before their weapons were ghosted right out of their hands. Maya's team handled the third group personally. Nova and its siblings moved like living darkness, their scales absorbing all light. The poacher's helmet beams seemed to vanish into void, leaving them blind and disoriented. What the hell? Their leader shouted, firing wildly. The shots passed harmlessly through Nova's light-absorbing hide. Maya emerged from the shadows atop Nova, her figure illuminated by the emergency lights. Welcome to Europa Prime Wildlife Sanctuary. I see you've met our residents. The poacher leader raised his weapon, then froze as he realized he was surrounded. 2 more Voidwalkers flanked his team, while plasma wraiths danced overhead like northern lights made of pure energy. This is impossible, he stammered. These creatures, they're monsters. They can't be controlled. Controlled? Maya laughed softly. No one's controlling them. They're protecting their home, and we're helping them do it. She leaned forward on Nova's neck. Drop your weapons. Now. When the sanctuary's power finally came back online an hour later, the scene in the main atrium was remarkable. 12 would-be poachers sat subdued, their weapons collected in a pile, while some of the galaxy's most dangerous predators lounged casually around them. A shadow stalker was actually playing with one of their discarded helmets, phasing it in and out of reality like a cat with a toy. Commander Rodriguez surveyed the scene, shaking his head in amazement. The Council's never going to believe this. Then it's a good thing we recorded everything, Maya grinned, sliding down from Nova's neck. The massive Voidwalker immediately nuzzled her, nearly knocking her over. Proof that with trust and understanding, even the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy can become allies. We'll need to upgrade security, Rodriguez mused, watching as a plasma wraith curiously investigated his tablet. And maybe rethink some of our containment protocols. Or, Maya suggested, scratching Nova's sweet spot, we could rethink the whole concept of containment. These beings aren't just specimens to be studied. They're partners. As if to emphasize her point, the juvenile cosmic leviathan let out a long, melodious call, a sound that scientists had once thought was a warning but Maya now knew was an expression of contentment. The sanctuary had faced its first real test, and the results were undeniable. Humanity's approach to these magnificent creatures, once dismissed as foolish optimism, had proven to be their greatest strength. Send word to the Council, Rodriguez decided. Tell them the sanctuary isn't just a conservation project anymore. It's a new model for coexistence. And tell them to hurry. I think the Shadow Stalkers are teaching the plasma wraiths how to play hide and seek. Maya watched as Nova returned to its siblings, all 3 Voidwalkers moving with the grace of natural predators and the gentleness of trusted friends. The galaxy was changing, one relationship at a time, and humanity was leading the way. 1 year after the poacher incident, the Europa Prime Wildlife Sanctuary had become something unprecedented in galactic history. Dr. Maya Patel stood in the observation dome, watching a sight that would have been unthinkable just months ago, a class of alien children safely interacting with a juvenile voidwalker under careful supervision. And remember, Maya called out to the wide-eyed youngsters, "Nova can sense your emotions. Stay calm, show respect, and she'll show you something amazing." The massive predator, now fully grown, lowered her head to the children's level. Her scales rippled with gentle patterns that Maya had learned to recognize as curiosity and friendliness. A young Triforian crystal child stepped forward, their crystalline form shimmering with nervousness. "That's it," Maya encouraged. "Just like we practiced." The child reached out with a glowing appendage, gently touching Nova's snout. The Voidwalker responded with a soft, harmonious hum that made the observation dome's windows vibrate. The children gasped in delight. Dr. Patel, Commander Rodriguez's voice came through her neural link. "The council representatives have arrived. They're waiting in the main conference room." Maya sighed. Even after all their successes, some members of the Galactic Council remained skeptical of the Sanctuary's methods. "On my way. Professor KTX, can you take over the class?" The insectoid xenobiologist chittered in affirmative, their compound eyes reflecting the wonder they still felt at being able to study these creatures up close. A year ago, KTX had been one of their strongest critics. Now, they were one of the Sanctuary's most dedicated researchers. Maya made her way to the conference room, passing habitats that no longer needed containment fields. The predators moved freely through designated areas, interacting with staff and each other in ways that had revolutionized xenobiological understanding. Ambassador Xoth was waiting with several other council members. His chromatophores still showed traces of anxiety, but there was also curiosity in their patterns. "Impressive progress," he admitted as Maya entered. "Though some of my colleagues remain concerned about your latest proposal." "The rehabilitation program?" Maya pulled up a holographic display. "We've already successfully released 3 pairs of shadow stalkers back into their native habitat. They're thriving, and more importantly, they're no longer attacking ships in their territory." "Because you taught them not to?" another council member asked skeptically. "Because we helped them understand that ships aren't threats or prey," Maya corrected. "These beings are intelligent. Once we stopped treating them like mindless monsters, we discovered they're capable of learning, adapting, even teaching each other." She showed them footage of recent breakthroughs, plasma wraiths helping maintain the Sanctuary's power systems, shadow stalkers assisting with security patrols, even the juvenile cosmic leviathan, now adolescent, helping to shield ships from dangerous solar flares. "The galaxy is changing," Maya continued. "We've proven that coexistence isn't just possible, it's beneficial. The Sanctuary isn't just preserving endangered species anymore. We're building bridges between worlds." Xoth's chromatophores shifted thoughtfully. "And now you want to expand? To create more sanctuaries?" "The demand is there," Maya nodded. "We've received requests from 17 systems to help with their own predator species issues. Humanity's approach is working, and others want to learn from our experience." Before Xoth could respond, an alert chimed through the facility. Maya checked her neural link and smiled. "Actually, would you like to see something remarkable? The Voidwalker eggs are hatching." She led the council members to the nursery, where Nova was already waiting. The massive predator stood protectively over a clutch of eggs, each pulsing with internal light. As they watched, the first shell cracked, revealing a tiny Voidwalker pup. What happened next left the council members speechless. Nova gently nuzzled her offspring, then looked directly at Maya, making a soft trilling sound they'd never heard before. "She's inviting me to help," Maya explained, moving forward. With infinite care, she assisted the tiny creature as it took its first breaths, her hands steady as she checked its vital signs. The pup, rather than showing fear, curiously nuzzled her fingers. "This," Maya said softly, "is what we've been working toward. These creatures aren't born hating or fearing us. That's learned behavior, just like trust is learned. We're proving that with understanding and respect, even the most dangerous beings in the galaxy can become allies. The council members watched in amazement as more eggs hatched, each tiny voidwalker displaying the same trust in Maya that their mother showed. It was living proof of everything the sanctuary stood for, a new way forward for all species. 5 years after the founding of Europa Prime Sanctuary, Dr. Maya Patel stood before the Galactic Council's Grand Assembly. The massive chamber was filled with representatives from thousands of worlds, all gathered to witness a historic moment. The results are undeniable, Maya began, her voice carrying across the vast space. What started as one sanctuary has grown into a network of 37 facilities across 23 star systems. Species once thought to be irredeemably dangerous are now helping us explore the deepest reaches of space. The holographic displays showed their greatest successes: shadow stalkers guiding ships through treacherous nebulae, plasma wraiths protecting colonies from solar storms, and voidwalkers helping to map unexplored regions of space. But perhaps our most significant discovery wasn't about the creatures themselves, Maya continued. It was about us. About how fear of the unknown can blind us to incredible possibilities. Commander Rodriguez, now Admiral of the Interstellar Wildlife Service, stepped forward. We're not here today to ask for more funding or to defend our methods. We're here to share what we've learned so that every world can benefit from this new understanding. The chamber erupted in discussion as Maya and Rodriguez presented their proposal, a galactic initiative to revolutionize how all species approached their most dangerous neighbors. Not through force or containment, but through understanding and respect. High above the council chamber, in synchronous orbit, something unprecedented was occurring. Nova, now a mature voidwalker, glided through space alongside the newest sanctuary vessel. On her back rode a team of human and alien researchers, protected by technology that had been developed through cooperation with the very creatures they once feared. Maya's neural link buzzed with a message from the team. Another cosmic leviathan had been discovered, this one injured by a natural phenomenon. Once, such a creature would have been left to die. Now, they had the knowledge, the resources, and most importantly, the understanding to help. The universe is vast and often dangerous, Maya concluded her presentation. But we're discovering that many of those dangers exist only because we don't understand them. Humanity's greatest gift to the galactic community isn't our technology or our determination, it's our ability to see past fear and find connection. As if on cue, a harmonic resonance filled the chamber, the song of voidwalkers, plasma wraiths, and countless other species, all joining together in what scientists now understood was an expression of unity. The sound moved through the assembled representatives like a physical force, a reminder that the galaxy's most fearsome voices could create something beautiful when given the chance. The vote that followed was nearly unanimous. The Galactic Wildlife Understanding and Cooperation Initiative would become law, ensuring that future generations would approach the unknown not with fear, but with curiosity and compassion. Later, as Maya watched Nova's offspring, now young adults, teaching new sanctuary staff the intricacies of void navigation, she reflected on how far they'd come. The tiny pups she'd helped birth were now magnificent creatures, neither pets nor prisoners, but partners in humanity's greatest adventure. They're ready, Rodriguez said, joining her at the observation dome. The new deep space expedition launches tomorrow. First time we're sending a joint human-predator crew to explore beyond the galactic rim. Maya smiled, watching as a young researcher confidently climbed aboard one of the voidwalkers. Did you ever think, when we started this, that we'd end up here? Honestly? No, Rodriguez laughed. But that's humanity for you. We see something everyone else thinks is impossible, and we just can't help ourselves. We have to try. Above them, the stars beckoned. Tomorrow, humans would venture into the unknown alongside creatures that the galaxy once feared. They would face new challenges, meet new species, and continue proving that understanding was the greatest power in the universe. And somewhere out there, in the vast darkness between the stars, other voices were waiting to be heard, other connections waiting to be made. Humanity, along with their unlikely allies, would be ready to listen.